All right, we're just about to get started, but before we begin, I'd like to invite Emma up to the stage to give a territorial land acknowledgement.
Bonjour, Sego. I just want to take a moment to acknowledge the land that we stand on. We are standing on the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Neutral people. This is treaty land that was promised to it's called the Haldeman Tract. It was promised to the people of the Six Nations. It runs 6 miles deep on either side of the Grand River. Now, obviously, this land is not belonging. It still belongs to them, but it is not theirs anymore. They are pushed onto the Six Nations Reserve. So we just want to take the time to respect the people and the land that we stand on. Chimiwech. Now on.
Welcome, everyone. So before we begin, I just wanted to say that I think, based on early counts, that this is the largest general meeting in terms of attendance that Feds has ever had. So give yourselves a round of applause for that. So I think maybe half an hour and we'll be out. Sound good? So the first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Member Forstner, seconded by Member Sherm. All right, any discussion on the agenda? If you would like to at any time discuss an item that has been moved, please come up to the front to either microphone, and that's how we'll recognize you, all right? Any discussion at all on the agenda? Wonderful. Wait. Oh, hold on. If you want to come up, you can just come up. Please, everyone, before you start speaking today, please start by saying your name. It just helps us when we're writing the minutes later on. Thank you.
Okay. Just say your name, please. Ilya Suhalutsky. I move the sixth motion on the agenda to... Can you scroll down, please, Chris? A little bit more. To be the new 11th motion. Yeah.
Hey. None of that. All right, so we have a motion to move item 6, that is WPIRG referendum, after honorary lifetime membership. Am I correct? All right, so is there a seconder? Seconded by Member Paulin. Any discussion on this? All right, so if you'd like to debate this motion, this is now the motion on the floor. You can come up to either microphone, please, and then we'll have the discussion. So if you are for, quiet please, quiet. If you are for the reordering, please come to this microphone. If you are against the reordering, please come to this microphone. Thank you. So the mover of the motion gets to speak first. Ilya, if you'd like to talk about it. Quiet please. Yeah, you're good.
All right. So, well, I understand that the motion in question is one of the more contentious items on today's agenda, and it seems like a lot of people are here in particular for that motion. Let's not forget that there are a lot of motions on today's agenda that are extremely important to the students of UW. We want to ensure that we actually have quorum for all of these motions so we can actually either pass or fail all of them. And for that reason, we should be moving the most contentious, issue to the end of the agenda to ensure we actually have the attendance and quorum necessary to be discussing the other motions on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. And yourself, please start by saying your name.
Caleb Voskamp. I agree with him. It is a contentious motion. And for that reason, there are people here to vote on it. And I know for myself, I have to be out of here by 7. And I don't want to miss this vote. And if we move it right to the end, there will be people who came here to vote on that motion who will miss it. And that they came here for that, and they don't deserve to miss that vote. So leave it where it is.
Thank you. All right.
I'm Mark Zabranovich. I'm the founder of this motion. I submitted along with Justin Paulin over here. Many of us are here for this motion, and the reason for this large attendance is this motion. That being said, The plan to simply leave after your motion is done, you came here to support WPERG or you came here to support me with opt-in, it doesn't matter. You came here, you're a student, you should be able to vote on all these agenda items. You can abstain, you can do whatever. But if you're just coming here because you want to have some sort of impact on only this issue, you're not really showing sort of what you're here for. You're here to support. You're a UW student. You should have a say on all these things. You should hear discussion on them. Whether or not it's the issue you're really concerned about, you should be able to at least give some sort of opinion on it and be fruitful for discussion.
Thank you. Next.
Robert Murphy. I came here just to vote for this motion. I've been waiting for over an hour now. I have things to do, and I'd like to vote for this and then leave. So if I could, after this motion, move to have it to number 2 or number 3, whatever. I just want to get out of here.
I'm afraid it's in the bylaws that the first 4 cannot be changed. So you could, in theory, move it to number 5, but not sooner than that.
Apparently I'm supposed to call to question.
Okay. But before we call to question, is there anyone else who wishes to speak, or can we just go ahead with the vote? Oh, we have 2 more speakers? All right, so you're going to call the question?
Yeah, call it.
All right, so the motion has been called. Is there a seconder for this motion? Moved by, do you just want to speak into the mic, your name?
Hannah Enns.
Hannah Enns. All right, so the question has been, so now we're going to be voting on calling the question. So just to be clear on what this means, so we're going to vote on whether or not we should stop talking about changing the order of the agenda. So we're voting on whether we should vote right now on changing the order. Is everyone? Sorry. What? Sorry. Quiet, please. Quiet, please. The motion to move it to number 2. It was ruled out of order because you can't move it before. Sorry, did you mean to move it to number 5?
Can I make that amendment?
You technically could, yes.
Yeah, move to number 5.
Sorry, yeah. Mr. Turner is right. The call to question has already been called. My apologies. So we are voting on whether we will vote right now on changing the order of the agenda. Is everyone clear with that? So we need a 2/3 majority for this to go through. All right? So voting yes means you'd like to vote right now on changing the order of the agenda. Voting no means you would like to keep discussing whether we should change order of the agenda. All right, so all those in favor of calling the question, raise your placards and keep them high. Do you actually think?
You want to do the no and then...
All right. All right, hold on. It seems like that's an overwhelming majority. Please lower your placards. And those voting no against calling the question? All right, that's enough of 2/3. All right, so the question has been called. So right now we are going to be voting on whether moving item number 6, WPERG referendum, down below honorary lifetime membership. So voting yes right now means you would like to change the order of the agenda, as I just said. Voting no means you would like to keep the order of the agenda as is. Is everyone clear? All right, all those in favor of amending the agenda, raise your placards.
I think we need a vote count for it.
Yeah, similarly, I think we don't need to do a vote count for this. All those opposed? The motion fails. You can ask for a count. I will do that if you wish, but I would like to remind you. All right, thank you. So is there any further discussion on the agenda? All right, we have 2, yeah. You can go ahead and speak.
No, I thought we were debating.
No.
I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda, and I respect the fact that there is a very contentious item on the agenda, but I would like to move 2 or 3 items beforehand that I don't think will be as contentious so that we can get things done. So in regards to the bylaw amendments, I'm the chair of the board. I'm actually going to request to table these bylaw amendments for this meeting to the next meeting because I don't feel we're actually prepared to implement them at this point. So I would like to move the WPERG referendum to item 9, and I would like to move item 7 to item 10. Thank you.
Okay. Is there a seconder for this motion? Any seconder? Seconded by Member Paulin. All right. So right now, the motion on the floor is whether to amend the agenda by moving items number 6 and 7 below item 9. All right. So as before, if you are speaking in favor of this amendment, please come up to this microphone. If you are speaking against this amendment to the agenda, please come up to this microphone. And yes, Member Ray, you do have the time to speak first.
I think I've stated my...
Quiet, please.
I think I've stated my point of view on this, and I would like to hear any opposing arguments. I feel it's some way to keep this relatively efficient.
All right. Any debate on those opposing the amendment? Yeah, if you'd like to come to the front, please. No? No? All right. Any further debate on this amendment to the agenda? All right. Seeing none, we'll put it to a vote. So again, voting yes means you would like to move items 6 and 7 below item 9. And that is if you are voting for. Sorry. A motion for a secret vote. All right, so... Sorry, Member Turner, I can't hear you. If you'd like to come to the microphone, never mind. All right. Point of information, yes. A secret vote? Vote by ballot. So everyone would get a ballot. You put it in a box. All right. So there has been a motion to do a secret ballot. Is there a seconder? I do not see a seconder. Your name? Moved by Member Tang, or seconded by Member Tang, sorry. Is there any debate on this motion? I believe this item is debatable. No, it's not. Thank you. So this item is not debatable. So we are going right now on whether we will have a secret ballot on whether or not we are going to change the item of the agenda. So all those in favor of voting by secret ballot on the amendment to change the agenda. Sorry, do you have a point of information? No, you cannot. So all those in favor of a secret ballot for this amendment, please raise your placards. All right, all those opposed? All right, motion's defeated. All right, moving on to the actual amendment. So again, voting yes means you would like to move items 6 and 7 down below item 9. All those in favor, please raise your placards. And those opposed? All right, the nays have it, motion's defeated. Any further debate on the agenda itself? Yes, would you like to speak? Please state your name.
I'm Taras Kolmatsky. I would like to raise a related motion. We've spoken about 6 and 7.
Oh,
yes.
hold on.
Motion 8 may have some relevance to the individuals making this vote, and there's a small split of time between these.
Sorry, hold on.
I would suggest I motion to move motion 8 before motion 6.
Motion 8 before motion 6. The councillor removal bylaw amendment?
That is correct.
Before motion 6. All right, is there a seconder for this motion? Seconded by Member Patel. All right, any debate? Again, if you are for this amendment to the agenda, please come to this microphone. If you are against, please come to this microphone.
Yeah, hold on.
You have the first speaking turn. Quiet, please.
The two motions are related and are perpetuated by some of the same groups of people. And
please speak closer to the mic.
People who are planning to leave at a certain point in time would like to have these motions together. So it would make sense to put this one prior to it because it seems as though there will be less debates and it will proceed quickly.
And those opposed? Yes.
I'd like to call a question.
Name?
Filza Nasser.
Okay.
The question on this motion and the agenda motion
All right, so is there a seconder for that before I explain it? All right, can someone just run up to the mic and say your name?
Jenna El-Khatib.
Jenna El-Khatib. All right, so we have a motion to call the question and call the question again on the agenda amendment. Sorry, do you have a question? Point of personal privilege, all right.
Speeches and motions in order to be more conducive to the vote.
Thank you. Please, everyone, please be respectful of those talking and try and keep the noise to a minimum. All right, so we have a motion on calling the question. I'm just going to need to confer for a second. All right, so what's going to happen here, similar to before, we're going to vote on ending discussion, and likewise for this one, we're going to be voting both to end debate on the amendment, so the amendment on moving number 8 ahead of number 6, as well as ending debate on the entire agenda motion as well. So we'll still vote on both of those things individually if this passes. It just means no more debate, no more motions. Sound good with everyone? Everyone understand what we're voting on? All right, so all those in favor of ending debate on these two motions, please raise your placards. All right, and those opposed? All right, motion passes. So we are now going to do in quick succession these two votes. So the first vote is on amending the agenda. So right now we're going to be voting on whether the councillor removal bylaw amendment will be moved ahead of item 6 WPIRG referendum. All right? So all those in favor of that amendment to the agenda, please raise your placards. And those opposed? All right, motion is defeated. All right, so now we're going to be voting on the agenda. So voting yes means that you agree this is the agenda we should have. Voting no means you think we should not use this agenda. So all those in favor of approving the agenda, please raise your placards. And those opposed? Thank you, everyone. Agenda is approved. Next up, we have approval of the minutes of the Fall 2015 General Meeting. Do I have a mover? Moved by Member Ray, seconded by Member Forstner. Is there any discussion on this? Any discussion? Seeing none, we're going to put this to a vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes of the previous general meeting, please raise your placards. Thank you. Those opposed? Motion passes. Minutes are approved. Number 3, election of the Board of Directors for the 2016-2017 term. So we have two different types of spots for the board. We have 2 spots for members of the 2016-2017 Students' Council. And I know there's a by-election going on, but you have to already be holding the seat for us to elect you right now. So those who are already members of next year's Students' Council are eligible for these 2 spots. The remaining 5 are open for any undergraduate student, any full member of the Federation. So, in the interests of not having to do a bunch of nominations, anyone who is interested in running for the board for 2016-2017, please come up here. Sorry, we have a point of information. Either any spot you want to run for the board, please come up to the front. Do it by section. Oh yeah, pretty much better. Yeah. Sorry.
You can do Joel's.
I don't know offhand who they are.
Oh, okay. Doza?
I'll find out who among here is eligible for next year. So I know there's a bunch of people running in the election, but you're not eligible. You have to already be holding the spot for next year. Sorry? Yeah. But not, are 2 of you counselors? Are you a counselor for next year? Okay. 9. That's 9 people. We need to have an election.
I'll just nominate. Counting people. Yeah.
Hold on, everyone. We're just sorting a few things out.
Can Fed's full-time staff please report to the bomber for 1 second? Thank you. Fed's full-time staff.
All right, so I'm going to pass them, or Stefan's going to pass the mic around, and everyone up here is going to please state their name and whether or not they are a student counselor for next term. Does that sound right?
I nominate
Joel Laforestier. I'm not him, though, and he's not a counselor.
Okay.
Fahad Al-Zawam, that's me. Counselor, question mark?
No.
I'm not a counselor, okay.
My name is Thompson Tran, and I'm a counselor.
My name is Tristan Potter, and I'm a counselor.
My name is Sasha Forstner, and I'm not a counselor.
My name is Jana El-Khatib, and I am at large seat.
My name is Fatima Boxwala, and I'm not a counselor.
My name's Alexander A.J. Ray, and I am an at-large.
I'm Caleb Voskamp, and I am also at large.
Wait, at large? Yeah. Like not a counselor? Okay, my name's Heather Bowden, and I'm not a counselor.
All right, so Stefan has nominated those people. Can I just have someone for formalities be seconding the nominations? Seconding by Member Sherm. All right. Anyone else who wishes to run for the council or at-large board of directors seats? Last chance. Last chance. All right, going once, going twice, gone. Nominations are closed. And I believe we only had 2 councillors, is that correct? Congratulations, Tristan and Thompson, you are acclaimed. If you would like to stay up here and get grilled by 300 people, you are more than welcome. Otherwise, you can sit down. Yeah. Or you can help serve pizza, that'd be great. All right, so if you would like to ask these candidates questions, please come up to, let's say, that microphone, and you can ask them questions. I will ask that all of the candidates who are responding to questions, please keep your responses under 30 seconds. Oh, sorry, my mistake. Everyone should be able to do a 2-minute spiel intro to themselves just to start. So, Joel, would you like to start?
Okay, so my name is Carly, but I'm speaking on behalf of Joel, who couldn't be here. He says, firstly, I'd like to offer my apologies for not being here in person. Unfortunately, my role as a member of the Federation Orientation Committee for the Arts faculty has me in other places today. It's very important to have diversity of opinions at the table when making decisions that are going to impact the lives of a group of students as diverse as the students that FEDS represents. During my time at the University of Waterloo, I've become acquainted with nearly every little nook and cranny that the Waterloo student experience has to offer, and I would be excited and honored to bring that breadth of experience to the board. Over the past 4 years, I've taken roles as a volunteer, marketing director, and ultimately service coordinator for the GLOW Center for Sexual and Gender Diversity. I've worked twice as a residence don. I've been the treasurer for a student council. I've worked as a peer success coach with the Student Success Office and have volunteered as a peer mentor with the Arts Undergraduate Office. During the last election, I helped coordinate and communicate for event logistics between FEDS and some of the candidates. I've been an Orientation Week coordinator twice, and this year I've taken on the daunting challenge of running the show for real as Arts Spock. I think it's safe to say that I've dipped my toes in a few different waters during my time at Waterloo. This is important not only because it has given me experience working with FEDS in multiple capacities through GLOW, Orientation Week, and others, but also because it has helped me to understand some of the issues faced by UW students. As a Dawn, a peer mentor, a success coach, and a volunteer for the GLOW Center, I worked one-on-one with students in crisis, students falling on hard academic, social, or personal times, and students who couldn't find a place for themselves at Waterloo. At the same time, however, I also worked with students who were thriving, who were experiencing Waterloo at its best, and who were growing and flourishing as a result of their time here. The Federation of Students has a role to play in giving all students the opportunity to have the latter experience rather than the former. To this end, as a member of the board, I would bring these experiences with me to ensure that the best interests of all Waterloo students were kept at the forefront of conversations at the board level. Is that time for me? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, all right.
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
That was Joel.
Thank you. Thank you. Joel is obviously way more prepared than me for this. My name is Fahad Al-Zaman, and I just brought myself into the running. Feds is a very big part of what we are and who represents us as students, and I would like to be a part of it in my upcoming last year. I used to be in engineering, and now I'm in arts. I've had overnight stays from DP to DC to E7 and E5 and all these new buildings, and I know the student body. I have a lot of friends out there, and I would like their voices to be represented. I would like to keep an open mind to critical issues, and I'd like to bring forth the, what do Feds do? Feds does a lot of stuff. I'd like to bring it to you guys. Thank you. Oh, for sure. Fahad Al-Zaman. Okay, that's F for Fox, A for Alpha, B, no wait, it's H. F-A-H-A-D, A-L, space, Z-A-M-A-N, Z-A-M-A-M. There we go. All right, thanks guys.
Thank you.
Thanks. My name is Sasha Forstner. I've been around this campus for about 6 some odd years. A few of those I was in math. These days I'm in art studying political science, specializing in public policy and administration. I believe what I can bring to the board is a breadth of experience. I spent 2 years on the Federation Orientation Committee, a year on the Fed's Budget Committee where I helped redraft the Fed's budget procedure, a year on the Math C&D Management Board, a year on the Board of Directors of the Math Endowment Fund, a year on the University Senate where I sat on the Undergraduate Student Relations Committee. I am actually the current incoming Senator at Large for the undergraduate population, one of the two. Back when board used to have open meetings, I was a regular attendee at them. There are two things that I would be hoping to push the board to really focus on in the coming year. The first of those things is Fed's organizational processes. I think within Feds that there is likely quite a few processes that are mundane, routine, everyday processes that could be automated. I think there are also opportunities to streamline and find efficiencies so that we can deliver the same services we do currently to students except at lower costs and better, which then allows us, since we're now delivering them in less time, to expand what we're actually able to do. The second thing I'd like to look into is, let's call it outreach. I think that there are obviously a lot of students Feds reaches, but the problem is we're not very good at identifying who the students we don't reach are, and there are far more students who don't pay much attention to Feds, who could benefit from Fed services but currently don't. I'd like to strategize to develop a picture of who that average student is and figure out how we can deliver services to them directly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jana, that's J-A-N-A. I'm a philosophy and fine arts student. I'm in my second year. This term has been a really interesting term in terms of Fed's involvement on campus with several referenda, and so it got me interested in having a leadership role within Feds. I have been involved with many campus groups, both under Feds and WPIRG. It started out with Students for Peace in Syria at WPIRG, and most recently we've been involved with the Fighting for Lower International Tuition project. This is a project that I'm passionate about because I don't believe that 2 9% hikes are right within a 2-year period, and I think that I want to be able to voice these students on the board level. I also understand that what the board does and that it has to hold its executives accountable and manage finances, and I think that I would like to remind or be a reminder for Feds that we are first and foremost a student union and then a corporate body. So I hope that's all. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Fatima, that's F-A-T-E-M-A. In the past, I have been a Feds math counselor. I've been doing that for a year now, and I had a lot of fun being on Feds Council. I'm also the chair of the Wix Undergraduate Committee, and I'm actually only a 2B computer science student, and in like my 2 years, I've been on MathSoc, MEF, Wix, Feds, the Computer Science Club, and I've also been really heavily involved in advocating for computer science students in the School of Computer Science on various committees. I'm really interested in joining board this term because I know that board is where the feds makes its financial decisions. And I'm going to be advocating a lot for allocating budget in a more, as Sasha said, I really want to be able to streamline some of the things that we don't need to be spending that much money on so that we can spend more money on things that students really want to get done in this school. That's all.
Hi everyone, my name's Alexander Ray. I've currently been the chair of the board of directors for this year. It's been a great learning experience for me. I've gained a really good knowledge of what FEDS is and understand the organization. So I hope to follow up this year by actually implementing some changes that I think need to happen to this organization to bring it back to being student focused. I feel we've gotten away from our mission and vision statement. We've gotten away from our values as an organization. We've gotten away from the electorate that actually we are responsible for representing. Just to speak to some of my experiences, I'm currently the student senator and incoming senator for the Faculty of Environment. While there, I've advocated for fall reading break. I introduced 2 motions on the international tuition hike to try and get the Senate to force board to reconsider those motions. Unfortunately, we were unsuccessful, but we have managed to start a conversation with the president of the university on this, and I think we'll be able to deliver a really solid tuition framework to protect our international students. You know what? We are a different university than most, and that is incredibly important. Our international students are part of our identity, and we need to support them and protect them, and I hope to do more by reforming our efforts, targeting our services to get money back to students. In regards to my other experiences, I've served as an Ontario Undergrad Student Alliance delegate. I've been responsible for implementing heavy student financial aid reform at the provincial level, which is now the Ontario grant that has been announced for next year. Also, this past weekend, I was responsible for implementing changes in regards to addressing sexual violence on campus and delivering a really strong policy framework on student employment. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Caleb Boskamp. Your time's valuable, so I'm going to keep this short. I'm an econ and entrepreneurship student. Yeah, I have a lot, and I know you pay a lot in Fed students, and you deserve to have efficiency for that. Your money should be spent well. You should get a good bang for your buck. So yeah, I started my own business at 14. Startup. It in the last year had $350,000 in revenue, and yeah, I'll apply that expertise to make sure your money gets spent well. So yeah, thank you everyone, and I'd appreciate your vote. Caleb Boskamp.
So my name is Heather Bone. I am a third-year econ student. I'm running for similar reasons to Caleb. I just want to make sure that your money is spent responsibly, and those who know me know that I'm always willing to listen, and I want to be your representative on the board of directors, so please consider voting for me. Thanks. Oh, yeah, right.
You're not running, Doug? No? No. All right, so now we open the floor to questions for the candidates, and as I said before, please keep your questions such that they can respond within 30 seconds, and candidates, please respond within 30 seconds, and I will be timing you. Member Turner.
So as a former director for 2 years, I find it is incredibly important that you understand what the role should be as a director of the corporation. So my first question, this is a 2-part question. The first question is yes or no, have you read the bylaws and the procedures that relate to the board of directors of Feds? My second question is, what is the purpose stated in our bylaws for the board of directors? And there is only one right answer.
I would like to start off. Oh wait, are we going in this order?
Can you just put that microphone there? Okay. I just can't really answer on behalf of Joel.
I'd like to say no, I have not read the bylaws, unfortunately. I will take it seriously if I do get elected, and if I haven't read the bylaws, I don't know the purpose either, but I hope to take it seriously once I do know
So I have read the bylaws and procedures, though I'll admit it has been a few months since I looked at them last, so I can't give you a verbatim answer on the exact purpose of the board. However, I can speak a little bit to what the board does. The board is responsible for overseeing the affairs of the corporation. They're the ultimate trustees of the corporation, so their job is to approve bylaw changes, agreements with other organizations, and make sure that the affairs of the corporation are kept in order.
Thank you.
I have read other Feds bylaws, not so specifically for the board, and I understand the board as being responsible for the oversight of executives, as well as passing bylaws and overseeing the finances of the Federation. Thank you.
I have read the bylaws, although it's been like a year, and you have no idea whether or not I actually knew the answer beforehand because I just heard both of them say it. But yes, the board is in charge of managing finances, approving bylaws, holding accountable the executive, and making sure the affairs of the corporation, because Feds is a corporation, are in order.
So yes, I am intimately aware of the bylaws and procedures. It's part of my job. In regards to what the board does, we are responsible for maintaining the organization on behalf of you. You elect us as your representatives, as your eyes and ears, and we're responsible for overseeing the operations of the corporation, make sure we're in good fiscal health, and make sure that moving forward we have somewhat of a long-term vision to express and carry us forward throughout these years. Being a student organization, we have a lot of turnover, so it's critical to have that long-term.
I could say what he just said, but the answer is no and no. However, I did buy a house 2 years ago as a rental property. I read through the bylaw and understood it better than the real estate agent by the time I was done. So I can read a bylaw and understand it. Thank you.
Yeah, similar to Caleb, the answer is no and no, but through my involvement in politics, I've had to read a lot of similar documents, and I have read some Feds documents, bylaws before, not specific to the board of directors. So I am committed to learning that if I am elected to this position. Thank you.
All right. Sorry, point of information. I'm not sure if that's necessary to the election right now. If you want it, you can. All right. Doug, would you like to give the answer? You seem very keen on this. All right, we'll wait while you pull that up and we'll ask the next question. Sound good? All right, Member Koo, if you would like to ask the next question. And we'll start on the other side with Heather and work for this question.
All right, so as a current member of the Board of Directors, I have one question for you, and it really only requires a one-word or phrase answer. On the Board of Directors, who do you represent?
All right, so starting with Heather, and we'll work our way this way.
Undergraduates.
You.
The members of the corporation, and only our members.
Only the members of the corporation.
Stakeholders, i.e. students.
Under provincial law, it's the best interests of the corporation.
My friends and my family, which is all of you.
I can't answer on behalf of Joel.
All right, thank you for asking a question I didn't need the timer for. Member Ramdev, would you like to ask the next question? Sorry, Doug, do you have the purpose?
I do. Section 8A, the Board of Directors shall primarily discuss and make operational management decisions relating to the legal, financial, human resources, and high-level organizational strategy and long-range planning of the Federation of Students. So take from that what you will.
Learn something every day. All right, Member Ramdev, would you like to ask a question?
I'm Chanakya Ramdev. I'm also a current board member, and recently, like I think a motion ago or something, there were people who were coming here who said, oh, we are just here for one motion, but as a board member, your hope is that you can get through the whole agenda. So in a short spiel, what would you tell them that why is it important to attend the whole meeting instead of just a motion?
And you have 30 seconds.
I guess because these things affect you. Think obviously there are some legitimate excuses that you can't be here for the entire meeting, but I think that there's a lot on the agenda that affects your life as an undergraduate and it would be really useful to learn and be informed about. So yeah, you should probably stay.
I'll be honest, what got me here was issue number 6, but I do believe in the political process, so I'm going to stay as long as I can. I do have to run at 7, so yeah, I really hope we can get there by 7, but yeah, I will stay for the political process, and I believe it's a good political process to stay.
Frankly, I feel motion number 6 is unproductive for what we try and accomplish at these meetings. There's a way of going about things. That isn't the way of doing things. So in regards to moving forward, it's critically important that you as a member exercise your democratic right to participate in your corporation. You are a member. You carry the rights of a member. You are a shareholder here.
So in my past history as a student counselor and a student representative, I get a lot of people asking me, why did this thing happen? And I didn't know about it. And my answer will be, you didn't come to the general meeting, or you didn't come to that council meeting, or you didn't read the minutes, you didn't read the agenda. You're not going to know what's happening with feds and what's happening at your school if you don't stay to see what's going on. There's a lot of important motions after motion number 6, including the feds fee increase. So you should definitely stay as long as you can possibly stay.
Being involved with WPIRG, I know that a lot of misconceptions that go around campus is due to a not insufficient knowledge of the procedures and also disengagement. So I would encourage you to be involved with feds as well, because it wouldn't be fair to this corporation to complain about decisions that are made later when you actually could have been involved with them and aware of them.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer, really. The general meeting is the highest expression of the student voice within the Federation of Students. Any student can show up, any student can vote, and these decisions bind every actor within the organization from the board of directors downward. These motions affect your life. They were talking later about 2 bylaw amendments, one which will affect the independence of your student counselors, one which we'll also be talking about a fee increase.
There are so many issues around us that happen without us even being aware of it. For example, undergraduate students will no longer get an @uwaterloo.ca address. They'll have a different appendation of that. I don't care what your views are. They're independent from mine. You have your rights to it, but I want you to come out here and get represented. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I can't speak on behalf of Joel, but it looks like he thinks it's important to send a proxy if you can't stay the whole time.
All right.
Thank you,
next up.
Marcus Abramovich. My question is, there was recently one of the largest referendums that happened on campus here, and at the culmination on January 28th, Stefan said that the official stance of the university is that we have no stance on severing ties. Given that the referendum question was whether or not you support severing ties with the 5 institutions listed, do you support changing? Would you agree with changing that, or do you agree that the official stance of Fed should be that we don't support severing ties with Israel?
Hold on. Yeah, that stance has actually changed. I don't recall offhand what it is. Yeah, the stance is actually no, we do not support it. Just so everyone's aware of what's happening, the member asked a question about a stance of the Federation of Students, which has since been changed. And he was asking, do you support changing it? And it's already changed. Thank you.
Hi, my question is, what's your stance on collecting signatures for petitions online?
I have no comment from Joel.
I think it's a great idea, especially with our email addresses. Nowadays, it would make it a lot easier for everyone else to get involved through social media, through Facebook, through Twitter. And if we can verify these things with our URL address, then it should be feasible. I approve.
I actually think it's more accountable and more secure, assuming that you have to log in with your Quest ID and password, than collecting paper signatures. So if we could or develop a process to make that happen, I would be all for it.
I would be against it. I have signed hundreds of petitions myself online. I know how easy it is to sign petitions online. It's not as accountable as a handwritten signature. If you care about something enough, I think it's important that you actually go around and collect it. And actually, it encourages, like handwritten petitions encourage more discussion, because online things get, like face-to-face discussions definitely are a lot better, I think.
I would only be for this if we could verify, like put it behind a CAST login, because if you can't verify with your Quest, like I assume you mean petitions to do with school things, yeah, you'd have to go behind your Quest ID and your password before you could sign the petition.
I think it's important to put it behind CASC. We live in a digital world. We need digital solutions. We are a co-op school, so our members should have access to it.
To be fair, I haven't researched it, I haven't looked into it, and it would be unfair of me to give you an answer when I haven't done that. So I have no opinion at this moment.
I absolutely support people being able to vote on, sign a petition online. I think right now one of the major problems is that people don't find it easy enough to be involved with feds. And I want to make sure that FEDS is as representative of the student public as population as possible. So I would support such a motion.
All right, thank you. Next question.
Hi, my name is Elisa. I'm here on behalf of UW-BASE, the Black Association for Student Expression. My question is, what are your opinions on creating a service, much like GLOW and the Women's Center, for racialized students, as well as your opinion on the weak presence of a diversity and equity office?
All right, and we'll start with Heather and go this way.
Honestly, I'd have to look into it more. I think one of the major things is efficiency, that we need to look into that and see, are these services being provided elsewhere? And I think in a lot of situations you find that they do, so I don't necessarily think we need to have a separate Fed service for that.
Every group deserves a voice. I would need to look into where the money's coming from and is the money being allocated fairly. I don't know, so I'd have to look into it.
For sure, if that's something students need, and I feel we do need it in regards to how multicultural we are on this campus, I do think it's something that we should be looking into. I think we could do a lot better in delivering services to our members, and that's why I'm running again, because I understand the organization now, and I feel we can move towards implementing changes, but that must be student-driven, and we must cater to our members.
Thanks so much for asking this question. I have done a lot of research into this, and I think we definitely do need such a service on this campus. I'm a woman of color, and I definitely feel like I'm not as supported on this campus as some other people. And I would love to have that kind of service under FEDS. And if there's anything I could do in my position on board to accomplish it, I would be all for that.
I absolutely support that. I'm actually appalled that there isn't a service on campus. Because of my involvement with WPIRG, I know how much people go to WPIRG as people of color and other minorities. And so I believe that if we had more services that WPIRG, things like what WPIRG facilitates, I think the more the merrier, and it absolutely is needed. And I will do everything I can on board to facilitate that, absolutely.
I think this is something definitely worth looking into. FEDS, a service has something with a very specific meaning within FEDS. I think what FEDS is in desperate need of is a diversity strategy. This isn't something that should be provided by just one service. It is something that should be provided and accounted for by every service. So I would like us to look into that. I would like to see board reach out to stakeholders and actually figure out what strategy we can develop to incorporate a more diverse federation.
I'm what you call a nomad. I'm a Bangladeshi person who was born and raised in Kuwait, and I'm studying as an international student here. I face the stigmas, and I've dealt with the stigmas of color and of prejudice, and I know what it means. I know what it means to be an outsider, and even when I visit my own home country, I feel outsider, but I know, the importance of being represented by your community. I found my home here in Waterloo, and I hope everyone can find their home. I'm all for the service. Thank you.
I have no comment from Joel, but he likes services.
Thank you, guys.
Filza Nasser, I'd like to call the question.
All right, there's a motion to call the question. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Member Hopkins. All right, so like before, we're going to vote on whether we should stop asking these candidates questions and whether we should elect them right now. Does everyone understand what we're voting on right now? All right, so all those in favor of calling the question, please raise your placards. And those opposed? All right, motion carries. The question has been called. So now we're going to vote. So everyone has those ballots that were given out. If you had a proxy, you should have two. Sorry.
I can tell you where the stations are.
Okay.
So there's a ballot box here. There's a ballot box there with Aaron. And there's a ballot box there with the secretary.
Okay. So the way the ballots work, ignore the top two that mention Students' Council. Those two have been acclaimed. Don't bother writing anything there. So on the bottom, there are 5 spots. So you rank them 1 through 5. 1 is the person from this list that you most wish to see on the board of directors, and you can rank up to 5. You do not need to rank beyond 5, but you just rank your top 5. You do not have to have 5. You can, if you just want one person, you can just rank the one person. If you want your top 3, you rank the top 3. So once you're done with your ballots, so we're going to be depositing our ballots and grabbing pizza at the same time. So there are 3 locations you can drop off your ballots. Right here beside this microphone, there is a box. Over there by the other microphone where Stefan is madly waving his hands right now, there is another box. Where you checked in, there is another box. Deposit your ballots there, and then go and grab a sliced pizza. If they got a proxy, they got that. I'm not sure. No, we don't do that. Just so you know, and I know it's late, but you can't put someone's name more than once. It's only going to count the one time.
You can if you want to. The way some people are dropping it in, you don't go there. Sorry. Thank you. Do we have left
No, both my meetings were under an hour. But I didn't have.
Yeah, that was that.
See, I'm so tired. I wasn't even paying attention to like the agenda that was like posted up there half an hour ago.
No, I'm 2 months now to take off that. Like, the last 2 months have been statistics, and this take out months, like, 20 years.
Yeah. Hey, if
I'm trying to keep it as much as possible off of W for itself because there's clear support for this. Look, everyone put up there to vote on that. Yeah.
That's like the sole reason.
Actually, that's probably my smart thing.
Last call for votes. If you haven't yet cast your ballot, please do so now. They are going to be closing. Last call for votes. Last call for ballots. And you can only do it up here at the front. Hurry up to the front to cast your ballot. Otherwise, ballot box is closed. Last call for pizza. Last call for pizza. For anyone that hasn't had their first. Voting is now closed. We're about to get started with the next item. We good?
Commandeer the team, 2 people.
All right. All right, in 30 seconds, I'm going to call the meeting back to order, so please get yourself settled. Hello. You want?
Oh no, I want to work the registration desk.
Oh, you want to work it?
I'll do it.
Okay. All righty, let's get back to the meeting. So, the next item on the agenda is the ratification of the 2016 executive. Aaron, could you scroll down to the rest of the document? We'll see the actual motion. Down, down. There we go. So the motion is, be it resolved, Sarah Wiley for Vice President Education, Deanna Priori for Vice President Internal, Brian Schwan for Vice President Operations and Finance, and Chris Lowless for President be ratified as the 2016-2017 executive team. Do I have a mover? Moved by Member Melanson, seconded by Member Buckswala. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor? And those opposed? Motion passes. We have an executive team for next year. Next up, we have a motion, be it resolved, the general meeting approve the Fed's fee increase by CPI, that's Consumer Price Index, of 1.1%, corresponding to 60 cents for full-time students. Do I have a mover? Moved by Member Ray, seconded by Member Paulin. Any discussion? So if you are for this motion, please come up to point of information. Member Forstner.
Does this CPI increase apply only to full-time students, not the part-time fee?
No, the way part-time fees are defined in the bylaws is just 30% of whatever the full-time fee is. So the motion only includes full-time, but it's sort of implied that this also applies for part-time as well. So yes, as I was saying, if you are speaking in favor of this motion, please come up to this microphone. If you are speaking against it, please come up to this microphone. And the mover gets to speak first. So that was moved by Member Ray. Would you like to speak?
Just to explain to you that don't know, Consumer Price Index is pretty much standard across the board for any not-for-profit organization. It allows us to match our fees to our rising costs. It's pretty standard. It normally just goes right through.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this motion? Seeing none, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor, please raise your placards. Looks like we might need a count for this one. Please raise your placards and hold them high if you are voting yes, and keep them up. Stefan's in the back over there. Point of information, yes. The current fence fee, I'm not sure off the top of my head what it is. We can look it up. Okay, so placards down. All those voting against the CPI increase? We're looking it up. Can you look up? Hi. Yeah. All right, and those abstaining, sorry, you can lower your placards now. Those abstaining, please raise your placards. If you'd like to, can you count them? We'll have it for the record. Please raise them high if you're abstaining. Okay, so what was it, 90, 200, you got 144? 1990. Okay. All right, so the motion passes 219 to 90 to 38. All right, and just so you know, if at any time after a vote you would like your personal vote recorded for the record, please just come up to the microphone and say your name and how you voted, all right? Thank you. So the motion passes. Moving on to the next motion. I believe that is the W-PERG referendum. So the motion is, Feds shall hold a referendum, quote, should the automatic $4.75 W-PERG fee be made opt-in by removing the fee from Quest and making it manually and optionally payable in another form, and quote, the referendum vote shall occur from September 21st to 23rd, and the campaigning period will start 1.5 weeks prior to this. Do I have a mover? Moved by Member Paulin. Seconder? Seconded by Member Patel. So, those speaking in favor of this motion, please come to this microphone.
I move that the motion be postponed indefinitely.
Sorry, you don't have the floor right now, so we're going to have those speaking in favor, and then those speaking against. So the mover of the motion can speak to it first, and then we will move back to...
Marcus Abramovich, I am the mover of this motion.
All right, so order please. Thank you. You have the floor.
Hi everyone, I'm Marcus Abramovich. I've called this motion on behalf of opt-in. U Waterloo. We are currently a Facebook page with approximately 800 likes on Facebook. Over the past, I guess 2 weeks or so, I've responded to 2,329 messages. I've had 400 odd proxies sent to me. I've had tons of people come up to me in class, asking me about this. Now, I want to make very clear that there is clear support on both sides of this issue. This is, I think Chris recalled, the most people have ever come to a general meeting before, and I appreciate, stop laughing. We've had tremendous support on both sides of this issue. And tons of people are not here in order to say what they have to say on this issue and say what they'd like to say and call how they'd like to call. So calling a referendum here is not even to make the fee, opt-in. It is to invoke democracy in this process, and it is to, and also I'd like to point out that this is not a motion to defund WPIRG at all, as has been accused of us. This is simply to move it to an opt-in consent-based form of payment.
Thank you. Those speaking against the motion? Against?
Hi everyone, my name's Filza Nasser, and I'm currently the chair of the WPIRG Board of Directors, and I'd just like to take a little bit of time to explain to you what WPIRG is and what we do, since I think there's a lot of misconceptions about that in the room. So starting with, yes, I know there are obviously people, like there's 28,000 undergraduate students at UW, so they're not all in this room, and the people not in this room have differing opinions on how they would vote on this, but there are like more than 300 votes in this room and people who want to vote on this issue, so that's why we'd like to vote here today, because those voices also need to be represented. It's not fair for students to be here for an hour and a half and not get to vote on the issue that they came to vote for. That's not democratic. So let's just start with what WPIRG is. WPIRG stands for the Waterloo Public Interest Research Group. It was created by UW students in 1973 as a student-run not-for-profit, and there's over 100 PIRGs across North America. WPIRG was the first in Canada. We have a long history at UW, and what we do is that we're sort of the velocity of student social justice entrepreneurs. WPIRG provides resources, programming, support, and staff for students who want to take on projects or action groups related to social justice work on campus. And so public interest is obviously a really vague term, and how we define what public interest is at WPIRG is through our general members meetings, which are held twice a term, and anyone can come out to these meetings if you pay the WPIRG fee, and you can vote on what projects you want to take on, what action groups you want to take on. You can vote on where you want WPIRG funding to go to. So that's like the main way. So if anyone disagrees with WPIRG action groups or projects, they're welcome to come out to these meetings. We welcome high turnout at these meetings, and you can vote on whatever projects or action groups you'd like WPIRG to take on. Some of the recent campaigns we've worked on, which you may or may not have heard of, include the Fight for Lower International Student Tuition with Y9, and the student housing organizing, which we helped over 30 students win back like over $90,000 after the One Columbia building was not finished. Our action group, Fossil Free UW, is currently trying to get UW to divest from fossil fuel companies. They recently voted for the Environment Student faculty to divest from the Environment Student Fund. We helped an action group organize a Cyber Ties referendum in the earlier this term. We hold an annual social justice comedy event, the Social Justice Night, at the start of every year. And we have an annual Rainbow Reels Queer Film Festival, which has been running for more than 15 years and is one of the largest queer supporting events in the community.
Sorry, there's a point of order.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, I don't feel that this point of order is not well taken. Continue.
Yeah, and as I'd also like to point out that the WPIRG fee is fully refundable, and our refunds are available in the first 3 weeks of every term for students who want to come. The refund process is, we've created the most accessible process given what we have. So the reason that we don't do online refunds is because we don't have a list of members from the university, so the only way we can verify who is a member is by students coming to us and logging into Quest for It. That's why refunds can only be done in person, but within that we give refunds in cash, and the process takes less than 3 minutes for students. We also try to do refunds in the SLC.
Order, please.
Again, WPIRG doesn't decide anything on behalf of students. Everything that we work on is decided, and how our funding is spent is decided on our members meetings, which are open to all UW students. Our financial information and our budgets are available online. And I know there's been a lot of comments about how much of the budget goes to staff salaries. Around 60% of that, which is actually very similar to similar nonprofits across Canada. 72% of the University of Waterloo's budget actually goes to staff salaries. The WPERG staff salaries budget includes payroll taxes, staff training, employer training, board training. So, and staff are not just those salaries. Staff are one of the biggest resources we provide. So our volunteers, our hundreds of volunteers, rely on staff to do a lot of the work, to provide the training, to provide long-term continuity for the organization. So yeah, those are just some of the things about what WPERG does and what we do. Now I'd like to take a little bit of time to just address the tone of this current referendum issue that's going on, as well as the tone by the group calling themselves Opt-in U Waterloo. So in the past few months,
Sorry, is there a question in the back? Is there a point of order? All right. I am ruling that discussions about WPERG concerning a WPERG referendum are in the spirit of the motion, and the point of order is not well taken.
Okay.
You may continue.
I will so I will talk about why the referendum right now is not a good idea, and I think that the main reason for that is the tone of the current referendum. So the group calling itself Opt-in U Waterloo has, over the last few months, continuously and repeatedly made sexist, homophobic, and Islamophobic remarks online against
Order, please.
Against students at this campus, and whether these remarks have been made online or in person is irrelevant.
There's a point of order. Yes. What is it?
As calm about calmness as we can. We have not attacked anyone or have said anything that's discriminatory or likewise. There are supporters, there are opt-in supporters who may have made these comments, but you cannot blame opt-in support, you cannot frame the opt-in organizers in a dark light for what their supporters say. Okay. And there have been attacks by the other side as well.
Thank you, that is enough. You can address these comments on your speaking term.
There's a point of order.
What is the point of order?
I'm the president of Opt-in Waterloo, and I'm really curious of what these comments are. I'm not aware of any of them. Can you give me one example?
That's not a point of order.
Okay, I'd like to continue.
If you wish to ask questions or refute the claims made by another member, you may do so during your speaking term, but it's not a point of order. You may continue.
So yeah, I'd like to point out that if we're going to have a referendum on this issue, if that's what students want, that should happen. But obviously, if there's 300 people in the room voting against the referendum, that's not what students want. It's not undemocratic for students to vote against something like that in the room. And I would be really worried about the campaigning that would come from the other side in this referendum if before the referendum has even happened, such remarks have been made
and students are
being harassed online.
What is the point of information?
So please vote no against this referendum.
That is not a point of information. That is something you can address during your speaking term. Point of information is if you do not understand the current process that is happening during the meeting. It is not a point of information to ask a question about someone else during their speaking term about what the subject is.
People on the live stream can't hear if you have a point of order and you don't use the microphone. So can we just...
At any time, if you're speaking, please use the microphone. Thank you. You may continue.
So that's why I'd like to urge everyone to vote no, and because this is a democratic situation, and if people vote no, they're allowed to vote no, and this is just as democratic as holding a referendum. If people want a referendum, I welcome you to hold that referendum if you can get the support for it. Thank you.
Thank you. You may speak.
Hey. Hi, everyone. You're passionate about this. I'm passionate about it. You're obvious.
Sorry, can you say your name for the record as well?
Sorry, I'm Caleb Voskamp. You may have seen me earlier today. So yeah, I'm passionate about it. You're passionate about it. You're definitely passionate about it. And I've got friends. I've got a friend, Peg Peterson. He was passionate about it. He couldn't make it here. I've got friends. They had meetings at 7:15. They can't make it here to vote about it. There's a lot of people who can't be here. So you're for the minority. You're for the little guy who can't speak. You're for the guy who can't be here. You're for the guy who's against the man, against the system. So this is the system. You should allow those who can't be here, those voices, to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, is there a point of order or point of information in the back? Hold on, just wait for the mic.
So can I comment on what he said?
No,
a question?
you cannot comment on what he said. If you wish to comment on what he said, please come up to the microphone and wait in line, and then you'll have a speaking turn.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
The next speaker.
Okay, my name is Danielle Johnston.
So I think there's a point of privilege to speak closer to the mic so that you're able to hear in the back, is what the member has said.
Okay, can everyone hear me?
In the back, can you hear?
Okay.
Iffy?
My name is Danielle Johnston, and I'm here on behalf of the Aboriginal Student Association. And we are here, well, the Aboriginal Student Association is a service for First Nations, Inuit, and Métis members, but also Indigenous people from all across campus, regardless of what their country of origin is. And we are essentially trying to support their education and their rediscovery of their culture. So many of us have lost our culture through various means, partially modernization of our societies, partially, moving away from home, all these things, and we are trying to reconnect with our identities. And WPIRG has been instrumental in that. They've funded our workshops, they have accessed support for us in terms of people who are able to come and talk, who are able to come and teach. And WPIRG is not our only source of funding, because they've been out there constantly trying to find us other places that we can go to look. So I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard about the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, or the TRC. It was a huge commission that took, I don't even know how many years, but many, many years. It started in maybe like 2006. So that's basically trying to say Canada needs to reconcile with Indigenous peoples all across the country. And in order to do that, we need to show them support. We need to show them solidarity. We need to be their allies. That they're important people too. And the Aboriginal Student Association is not just for those people. Allies are welcome. We have allies here in this room, and these are very important to us. I would like to say that because currently, right now, the Aboriginal Student Association funding is so tied to WPIRG's financial support, but as well as like research support and finding people. They support us in basically every way, that any chance that WPIRG would get defunded would defund all these great programs on campus that you guys are all welcome to. For example, free soup lunches on Thursdays, where you get to learn about more Indigenous issues, about how you can become a better ally to these people in Canada. So WPIRG has been a partner with the Aboriginal Student Association for many years, and we're trying to foster that relationship. And ASA doesn't really take kindly to a threat to WPIRG, so thanks.
Thank you. May we go?
Thank you. My name is Visha. First, I want to appreciate WPIRG for all the services that they do. I'm sure we can all appreciate that it's a very important organization. I had two questions that will help me understand whether or not to vote for the referendum or not, so I'd really appreciate an answer. The first question is, how much are you guys reporting on this fiscal year as a part of your, I guess, income, or what is it?
The revenues for the year?
Yes, that's the first question. The second question is, how much of that revenue would be foregone if this turned into an opt-in system? What is your projected?
So this is still part of your speaking term. If there is anyone who has knowledge of this who can speak to that, this is still part of her speaking term, but if someone can provide an answer to that or wishes to try.
So the first question, it's around 60% of our budget is going to salaries. Was that the question?
No, my question was, what was your reported fees collected for this fiscal year? And the second question is, if this referendum passes, it turns into an opt-in system, how much of that is foregone? How much are you losing?
Okay, so the first question, it's around $250,000 is collected every year from the undergraduate levy.
Do you know how much you're reporting for this fiscal year, though?
Yeah, it's like around 250. I don't have the exact number for you, but 250. And the second question, so there is no opt-in system that exists. Like if the WPERG fee was removed from Quest, there would be no WPERG. There is no way for us to get the WPERG.
So if it turned into if it turned into an opt-in system, the organization would disassemble?
No, there would be no funding for WPERG.
But wouldn't people be able to opt in to continue the funding for the organization?
There's no system to create an opt-in system.
So
it doesn't
All right,
exist.
hold on. Order. This is not the place for a back and forth discussion. Thank you. So the next member may speak.
Hi, my name is Basil. I'm gonna talk about experience that I had with WPERG. I'm not used to speaking in public, but yeah. Anyways, so back in September 2014, I signed a lease with Chembry to live with them for that year. As you guys know, 1 Columbia was a building that did not complete on time. So basically, for 3 months, we'd had nowhere to live.
Would you mind speaking closer to the
Sure.
Thank you.
So yeah, so I signed the lease with them, and the building wasn't ready. And basically we had nowhere to live. They made us live in hotels, and every other weekend or so they tell us that we have to leave because the hotel was full. And anyways, it's not about my bad journey or whatever. Anyways, so the only people who backed us up were WPERG. They worked with us. They hired a lawyer for us so that we can go against Chembry and so that we can get our deposit back. They told us of every single solution that is possible and what we should do, and it worked out pretty nice, and we actually won, and yes, that's it.
You may speak.
So,
Name first.
Sorry?
Name first.
Justin Collins. Speaking to my club. Okay. I just want to reiterate that all the people, any person that feels accused of making comments that may not have...
Please refrain from speaking to the members directly. Address all of your comments to the chair.
Okay. Those people are not necessarily representative of opt-in. They're supporters, they're independent, and they aren't organizers, they aren't representative of the organization as a whole. Another thing I would like to say is we're simply motioning to actually call a referendum. We're seeing if people agree or disagree across the greater campus community, not just the 300 people in this room. And with that, I would also like to motion to call the question.
All right, so there is a motion to call the question. I think we're all familiar with what this means right now. So is there a seconder? Member Abramovich? All right, so everyone understands. So if a 2/3 vote in favor, then we'll be voting on this question immediately, and we will end debate. Otherwise, we will continue debating. Sorry, is there a... All right, everyone understands what we're doing? So all those in favor of calling the question and ending debate, please raise your placards. Yeah, I think... All right, lower your placards. All those opposed? All right, I'm going to declare that that motion passes. The question has been called. So, the motion is up. Yes, the motion is up there on the screen. So, voting in favor means you support feds holding the referendum as stated in the question above. Voting against means you do not support that. Is everyone clear on what we are voting on right now? All right, so those in favor of the motion, please raise your placards. Raise them high and hold them there while we count. This is for. You are for the motion to call a referendum. Yeah. Sorry? 84. 84. What is that? So, 814, 158. Is it what? No, that was pretty good.
That's, no.
664.
Yeah, and the 0. Oh, okay. 150. I think that's fine.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's 150. All right, you can lower your placards. All those voting against the motion, please raise your placards. I'm also going to take this opportunity to remind everyone to please vote online to test the system at gm.feds.ca. Again, your votes don't count online. We're just testing the system. What did you get? 121. So it's 244, 157, 224. And those abstaining, please raise your placards and hold them high for counting.
Mr. Chair,
Could I please have my abstention noted in the minutes?
What is your name for the minutes?
Sasha Forstner.
Sasha Forstner's abstention is noted.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
I'd like to do the same.
And what is your name?
Riesenkoenig. Jake Riesenkoenig. Wow, can't even say my name. Jake Riesenkoenig, abstaining. Thank you.
Thank you. And yourself?
Abstaining.
Shanaki Ramdev abstaining. All right, you can lower your placards, everyone. By a vote of 157 to 244 to 18, motion fails. Thank you, everyone. Sorry. A recount? Sorry. Sorry, there's a motion for a recount? Do you wish to move with the recount? All right, so there is a motion to a recount by member
Grant Mosker.
Is there a seconder for this motion? No, is there a seconder for this motion?
Member Mystery.
All right, so there is a motion for a recount, and I believe this passes by a majority. So all those in favor of doing a recount of the previous vote, please raise your placards. And those opposed? Motion fails. Moving on to the next item of business. I would like to entertain a 5-minute recess because it's clear that people are leaving and it's quite noisy right now. So would someone like to move for a 5-minute recess? Moved by member Forstner, seconded by member Bakswala. All those in favor? All those in favor of a 5-minute recess, please raise your placards. And those opposed? All right, the meeting is in recess for 5 minutes.
You've been doing a good job.
Make people.
Please stay. Please don't go.
Thank you, guys.
We are going to reconvene in 2 minutes and we will announce the results of the board election.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
Sure, let's do it. Oh, you okay?
Don't worry about it. Email Chris first. Just email Prez at Feds.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. All right, everyone, please have your seat. We are going to call this meeting back to order. Yeah, absolutely. Order, please, order. I'm going to call this meeting back to order, and I have the results of the Board of Directors election. So in no particular order, the 5 at-large seats for the 2016-2017 Board of Directors are going to be filled by, and I just have first names here, Jana, Alex, Caleb, Sasha, and Fatima. Congratulations to the 2016-2017 Board. Moving on to the next item, item 7, Feds fee $1.35 increase. Can we scroll down to the motion? So the motion is, be resolved the general meeting approve the Feds fee increase by $1.35. Do I have a mover? Moved by Vice President Hamade. Seconder? Seconded by Member Garrett. All right, those speaking in favor, I guess, will be on this side, and those speaking against will be on this microphone. So, Vice President Hamade, you are the mover. You can speak to it right now. Order, please. Order.
All right. So, as Sasha said, Chris said, I'm the Vice President of Education for the Federation of Students, and I do have a little presentation ready for you, and I'm happy to take questions afterwards as well. So, I want to talk about the future of Feds' advocacy. And more in detail, the stakeholder relations officer position. So next slide, please. Okay. So I'm going to talk about what does the role entail, what is the increase, some of the recent successes, some other universities that have very similar roles to the one that we're discussing, and some of the further benefits in terms of the relationships that can be built and in terms of advocacy strategy. Next slide. All right, so what advocacy is often meeting with the university government to really further benefits to you. So make things really better for you. So things that can be changed in policy, such as how well professors teach, making sure you go through training, to financial aid, to bus passes, and how GRT works are all under the domain of advocacy. So we've seen large-scale changes such as improved financial aid recently, hopefully better email, and improved transit that have happened and will continue to happen if we can work at it. Advocacy can be really long-term, and sometimes it'll take more than 1 year, up till 5, 10 years. Some changes, especially in terms of some of the social changes, can take decades. So it's important to have some continuity in the role and in terms of advocacy. Next slide, please. Okay, so the role of the stakeholder relations officer, and right now the person who's in the role isn't here today. They are in Ottawa, meeting with politicians on behalf of students. So they help develop relationships with students, between students and the university administration and government. So that's through meetings and just building long-term relationships that can be more effective for advocacy. They conduct research for meetings, so to make sure that students are as prepared as possible when they're going into meetings. A lot of the topics that are discussed can be extremely complicated, and it's great to have someone who has significant expertise in these areas. Develop annual and long-range plans. So, like I said, many of these things can take many years, or at least the whole year, to accomplish. And it's important to have a plan on how it will be accomplished so that it can be as effective as possible for students. Maintaining knowledge of issues and changes in post-secondary education. Like I said, the sector is very complicated. So a lot of things are changing every day at different universities that we can take ideas from to improve things at the University of Waterloo. In different countries and different provinces, we see different changes in terms of financial aid and things like that. If we have somebody who's able to keep on top of all of this, they can then suggest this to our governments and our university to create a better experience for us. And that's not always possible just with the student representative. And then finally, maintaining long-term relationships with the university and politicians. They're much more likely to, university administration and politicians are much more likely to listen to someone who they've known for a while and who they started developing trust with. In the first few months that I was in this role, May through maybe September, they might have just gotten to know me, and they're much less likely to listen to advice that I have on behalf of students than someone who they might have known for a little while longer, who is still in the role to represent students. So having a new lobbyist every year isn't always effective. So I've thankfully been in the role the second year, and I've noticed in the second year it's much more effective in terms of the relationships being built before. Next slide, please. So the position was funded by our board for an 18-month trial to test to see whether or not it would be effective. And from our evaluation, it has been effective in achieving a lot of things, and we'll get to that in the next slide. But right now, with the reserves that are diminishing, we can only test it for about 18 months. So the role would need some additional funding that we're discussing today to continue being able to be beneficial for students. Next slide, please. So what we've seen recently in the provincial budget was the Ontario Student Grant, which will be beneficial for a lot of students here today and across our campus in terms of making university more affordable. So I recently wrote a policy paper that actually had a lot of things that ended up in the budget, and the role is instrumental to developing research and ideas that go into those policy papers. And then also meetings with a lot of our local MPPs are done along with this role because they often have skills that a recent grad or a current student won't have. Right now we're also looking at, and this was announced yesterday, I'm not sure if everyone knows, the federal government will be incentivizing companies to hire co-op students. It wasn't a big discussion in the budget, but it was something that we've been talking about for about 1.5 years. Obviously, it's something that benefits Waterloo students maybe disproportionately to everyone else. And so we were one of the only we were, from what I can tell, the only student organization who was really talking about this. And the work of the stakeholder relations officer was instrumental to making this happen. So what we're hopefully going to see with this new investment from the federal government is more co-op jobs and hopefully then higher employment rates in the areas where there's been investment made. And then the other one is developing the capacity to advocate federally. Next slide. Some of the discussion that was just had with the WPIRG motion was around international student tuition. It's something that I think really there's kind of two sides to making change at this university. There's the activism side that is obviously very effective, and then there's the getting into meetings, providing research to the university to really show them the benefits. Unfortunately, it hasn't been effective yet, but I think it will be effective soon. And what we're hoping to see with that is being able to provide research to the university to show really the benefits. So we've been having meetings for the last 2 years on the international student issue, and they've taken our advice. They haven't implemented our advice yet, but I think eventually they will, and this is something that does take continued activity on both fronts. On the same thing for Sage and Shembury, it's something right now that we're working on changes to the Landlord-Tenant Board Act, or the Landlord-Tenant Act, to make sure things like this don't happen again, and to give the Landlord-Tenant Board more teeth to be able to be more to be able to tell landlords what to do. So we're working with our local MPP, Catherine Fife, who we've been able to develop relationship over the years with, and we think that we're going to be able to make some change through that. And the Stakeholder Relations Officer has also been working with other universities who have had similar situations in Toronto and a few other cities as well. Next slide, please. So comparable roles. So right now, I just gave two examples. There's one at Western, a manager of advocacy and government services. So they provide strategic support to the student executives on their advocacy efforts with a focus on the federal, municipal, and university sectors. So this is somebody who's very similar to our Stakeholder Relations Officer. It's in a lot of ways just a different title. And Western has been, along with Laurier, some of the most effective schools at making change for their students, both at all levels of government and within the university sector. So same thing at Laurier with their Director of Policy Research and Advocacy, very similar things. I just took this both from either their LinkedIn profiles or their job descriptions online. Next slide, please. So some of the benefits on the relationship side, by working with them for more than 1 year, they'll develop a relationship with the politician and university administration. So like I said before, admin are more receptive to people that they know and trust. So things that they're more likely to kind of tell you a little bit earlier. So one of the things that happened because I had developed a relationship and I was in my second year as an executive was they talked to us about Waterloo Works a little bit earlier than when they announced it to everybody, and we were able to get some changes made before it finally got announced because we knew that there would not be some unhappiness from students. But that was because they were willing to talk to us before, and that's through long-term relationships that can be built. Relationship building can take much of the mandate of the VP Education or the President, sometimes 6 months, and then by that point we're almost halfway through our year or halfway through our year, and we're not able to benefit from or bring benefits to students from the relationships that have been built the same way that somebody who's here for longer can. Next slide, please. So in terms of advocacy, like I said, the turnover executives can let many projects drop. So I mean, we do have decent transition, but there can be things that are missed and stuff like that in the transition. But having someone there throughout advocating for students who will be able to remember what's happened 2, 3, 4 years ago, will be able to make sure that projects can be effective over the long term and be as efficient as possible. Memory of discussions with administration and politicians. So like I said, during the transition, we're not going to be able to transition every single discussion that was had, but if this person was there for the discussion, which they often may be, they're going to be able to remind the new elected official of what was said before, what might have been promised by the university or a politician, to hold them better accountable to make sure the results are best for students. Stability. So stability is obviously something that there can be a lot of fluctuation, which sometimes can be good, but a lot of times can lead to less effectiveness for students. And then again, like I said before, keeping Fed's executive more aware of changes happening in the sector. We can only be so aware, we're only so knowledgeable, and we only have so much time in the day, so we can't always be aware of the changes that are happening that could be happening at another university or government that we could then potentially implement here. And this is something that this role can bring to us. And just in conclusion, again, advocacy projects can take many, many years to implement. So it's important to have somebody who's going to be here throughout the process to make sure we do get the best results we can for students. And I think that's my last slide, but I'm happy to take any questions.
You're out of time. All right, so if there's anyone else who wishes to speak to this motion, so the for side, the against side, if you just have questions, you can pick whichever side you'd like. Sorry.
Just a question for Stefan.
All right, it's just a question for Stefan.
So this position was advocated for on the basis that it would pay for itself, and I've been asked by many people if you could explain a little bit about how that works. I'm assuming this is for Brian, right? Or
No, this is not the position that candidate Schwan in the election was advocating for.
Okay.
This is a different position entirely.
Can I answer it anyway?
Sure.
So, unfortunately, this position isn't really bringing money directly to feds itself. Things like financial aid and stuff like that bring money, I would say, directly back to students. So things like the Ontario Students Grant will bring potentially back hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars. Things like the Ontario Tuition Grant before, when it was added to co-op students, bring back hundreds of dollars back into students' pockets for each student.
Okay. So we just had someone speak on this side. In this lineup, Member Forstner, if you'd like to speak to it.
Thank you. Microphone Maz. All right, I'd just like to, it's two things. First, I would like to support this motion. I think Feds needs this position. I think Feds has needed this position for some time. We should really stop this annual relationship reset for advocacy purposes every time we elect a new exec. It makes long-term strategizing for our advocacy priorities on educational policy and government policy very difficult to do outside of organizations that we have memberships in that have staff like this, like USA. This will enable some long-term strategies, but quite frankly, to some extent, it's basically a lobbyist we're paying for here, and you do have to pay them a salary. I get that the budget's tight, so the increase isn't the worst thing in the world. It is, I think, worth proving this because it's good and it's necessary, and it will improve Fed's ability to speak on our behalf. The second thing I'd like to say is to express some concern with this in general. I think this is the latest in a sort of a string of very specific targeted fee increases over the last several years that have always been for purposes that are important and good and seemingly necessary, and there's always been a strong case for approving the increase at the time, and I can't say I've been directly opposed to any of them. However, I think having to suddenly approve an increase, realizing in, say, February or March that in order to pay for a new position, we're going to need to increase the fee, isn't particularly strategic. And it suggests to me, when you look at the reasons for these increases, it reads a little like a list of executive projects from year to year. And that suggests to me that there is, it's indicative of a lack of long-term, long-range strategic planning around our fee structure. I think we do need to have a fee strategy. I think the way some costs increase is known to us. And there needs to be, and I'm saying this now as a future board member, but I'm saying it to the other future board members, to the incoming executive, and to any people running for council, there needs to be some strategy around how we plan out our fees. We need to understand what costs are going to be coming down the tubes in the next 3 to 4 years, and understand what increases we're going to need in order to cover those costs, because it shouldn't be an ad hoc process. So for today, I'm in support of this motion. I encourage you all to vote for it, but to the relevant decision makers, I encourage you to think about financial and budgetary strategy. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Forster. Your name?
I'm Hoiv. I'm speaking on behalf of my proxy. Okay. So, question for Stefan. If the position were to be created, would you run for? If the position were to be created, would you run for it? Just in case of any potential conflicts of interest.
I guess I can say no. It wouldn't be something I would say you'd run for. It would be an application, but if you'd like, I would say no.
The question was whether he would run for this position, and I assume that would mean whether he would apply for this position, and Vice President Hamade said no. He has to go back to school. Member Garretts.
My name is Matthew Garretts. Thank you. I don't really anticipate many people voting against this measure, but for anybody who is considering it, I just want you to consider the fact that of all the decisions that can affect the student body the most and affect students the most, possibly the greatest of those is decisions that we don't have control over, those that come from the government, that we have limited control over as a student body, as a governing body. And a small investment in policy, in creating these, creating this rapport with the government is something that I think definitely is a good preventative measure and a good advocacy measure. That was just my point. Thanks.
Thank you. Your name?
Matthew Chase.
Okay.
This is a question for Stefan. In the past, the trial period of this position, you mentioned that Waterloo Works, you only gave the Waterloo Works as an example of a successful initiative that was proposed or put forward by this position. Are there any other initiatives that have been successful during the trial period?
So I did talk also about the federal government lobbying that was just successful as of yesterday. Would you like me to talk a little bit more as well?
Yes, please.
So I think a lot of the things are also ongoing. I think that's one of the issues is that it will take a little bit more time on some of them. I think international students, it did create a lot better of a discussion around the table, some of their work. A lot of the stuff at the provincial level. So they helped me directly on the student financial aid paper with USA, which then turned into policy at the provincial level as well.
Thank you for your time.
Anyone else wishing to speak to, Mr. Ramdev?
Okay. I just wanted to bring one point that Stefan mentioned, but I want to make sure I can expressively say that. So I'm still a student, but I also run a startup, and through that, we get the wonderful opportunity to hire co-op students. So when he was talking about federal government making funds available for us, so that you might not think of as an employer, but each and every startup within Velocity, which I hope you guys support, gets the opportunity to hire you all, which we wouldn't be able to. And all of that was only possible because of the advocacy that Feds as well as the parent organization USA did. So you might not see the direct benefit now, but your own careers potentially could be affected by the lobbying activities that we do. And one last thing, we are also looking for co-ops, so if you're looking for co-op jobs in summer, you should definitely...
Thank you, Member Ramdev. Yep, you may go.
Is it on? Yeah. I just have a question for Stefan. During the presentation, you told us that Feds takes charge on advocacy for undergraduate students in terms of, for example, the tuition hike and the housing scandals. Before that, during the previous motion, we were told that WPIRG takes charge on that student advocacy. So just to clarify, who is responsible for advocacy for Waterloo undergraduate students? Thank you.
So I think there's, both of us really do work on this collaboratively sometimes. Sometimes we do work a little bit separately on issues. It really does depend on the issue itself. If there's interest from both groups, only interest from one group. The housing one, I would say we've kind of taken two different approaches. WPIRG went directly with the individual students. We're looking for change to legislation to make sure this never happens again. So I think there's really opportunity for both of our groups to work on this this issue separately. And on the international student one as well, we're working through meeting with the provost and other people in the university administration to work on the international student issue, and a lot of the activism on the other side has been with WPIRG.
Great, thank you. Next up.
I call to question, please.
All right, there's a call to question. Is there a seconder for this? Seconded by Member Pollen. All right, I think we're all familiar with what call to question means. So if you're voting yes, that means you'd like to end discussion on this motion. So all those in favor of calling the question, please raise your placards. And all opposed? Motion passes. So we are now calling to question. Okay. Yeah. All right. Can we pull back up the motion, Aaron? So the motion we are voting on right now is, hold on. All right, so be it resolved, the general meeting approved the Fed's fee increase by $1.35. All those in favor, please raise your placards. Raise them and hold them high, please. All right, and all those opposed, please raise your placards. And those abstaining, please raise your placards. All right, by a vote of 139 to 50 to 13, the motion passes. All right, moving on to item 8. All right, so councillor removal bylaw amendment. So I understand that...
call to adjourn meeting. No.
Sorry, what's that? No? All right. So I understand that the student who originally moved this motion no longer wishes to have it discussed at this meeting and may bring it up at another time. So if there is no one to move the motion, we will simply skip it and move on to the next item on the agenda. That being said, if anyone does wish to move it, we will discuss it as normal. So is there a mover of this amendment? I am seeing none, so we will skip this item and move on to number 9, referendum requisition bylaw amendments. So the motion is to amend Section 6 referendum and Section 7 requisitions of the bylaws, and they are presented in a different document. Member Ray, would you like to say something?
Motion to table pending edits from the Board of Directors.
So there's a motion to table this motion pending a few edits. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Member Ilya. All right, would you like to speak to this?
So essentially, unfortunately, the board was a little bit rushed. We didn't think this was going to be a legal issue. Unfortunately, our lawyer has come back to us and stated that there may be a legal issue with how the amendment is currently worded. So we really want to do our due diligence and take it back to them. Unfortunately, in our bylaws, we couldn't pull the motion back down. Once it goes to the agenda and once we approve it, it stays there. So we'd like to edit it and bring it back to you and present it again. So thank you.
All right, is there any further discussion on the motion to table these amendments? Seeing none, all those in favor of tabling this motion? And those opposed? The motion to table passes. The motion is on the table. All right, next up we have item 10, election of members of the Budget Committee. So there are 4 spots available to the Budget Committee. One is for just any student. There are 2 for counselors, Similar to the board election, they have to be members of next year's council. And then there is one for the director's seat. So of the 7 people who've been elected to the board, you can also run for this seat. So if anyone would like to be on the budget committee, please come up to the front. All right. AJ, are you running? All right, so we have AJ, we have Matthew. Is there anyone else who wishes to run for the budget committee? Oh, Roseanne? All right, last call to run for the budget committee. All right, now we might have acclamations. I just need to make sure that everyone fills the spots accordingly. So can you, if I pass the mic, can you just tell me what, if you're on council or if you're on board or if you're on both?
So my name is Roseanne, and I'm on council for next year.
I'm Matthew. I'm also on council for next year.
My name's Alexander, and I'm on board for next year.
My name's Steve, and I'd like to be on the council.
So you're an at-large right now?
I'm at-large right now, yeah.
All right, so I see we have 2 councilors, 1 director and 1 at-large. So congratulations, you're all acclaimed.
Are you on council now? Are you already?
Point of order.
Sorry.
No, because they're nominations and no one else ran against them. Yeah. Next up, item 11, approval of honorary lifetime membership winners. So as it said in the agenda, when the agenda was sent out, we were still accepting nominations. So that's why you didn't see them. So we received nominations, then a committee of the feds approved 2 names to go forward to this meeting. So the first one is Dr. Barbara Schumacher, and I'll let Vice President Creedy speak to this person receiving honorary lifetime membership.
Okay, so I'm Carly. I'm the current Vice President of Operations and Finance, and I was the one who nominated Dr. Schumacher. So Dr. Schumacher, I wish I brought my actual thing, but Dr. Schumacher recently retired as the medical director of the University of Waterloo, and she's in that position for 29 years. And in her position, she really helped out the students of the University of Waterloo. She was instrumental in helping us with our health and dental plan, which you're all members of. And every year she would send us a list of drugs that students were requesting a lot to be added onto the formulary so that they would be covered by your insurance. She was also instrumental in the Health Services Edition, which is why Health Services is so awesome today. And we have over 100% of the recommended amount of health services space on campus. Dr. Schumacher, like in your interactions with her, always spoke about her love of students, and when she was interviewed about retiring, what she said she would miss most was students. And so I just really want to make sure we recognize administrators on campus who have such a student-focused approach to their job, and I thought Dr. Schumacher would be an excellent recipient of this award.
Okay, just for clarification for everyone, honorary lifetime membership, they don't have a vote in elections or general meetings or anything like that. They can't run for council. Basically, this is purely symbolic. All it is just saying, we thank you for your work for the feds, and they get nothing else.
It's like a key to the feds office.
Basically, yes. So is there any discussion on this? Actually, we need movers and seconders. So moved by Vice President McCready, seconded by Vice President Yasin. Any discussion? Seeing none, this needs to pass by a 2/3 vote at the general meeting. All those in favor of awarding Dr. Barbara Schumacher honorary lifetime membership? All right, thank you. Those opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. Congratulations, Dr. Schumacher. The next one I believe is going to be presented by Vice President Hamade, and the nominee is Sean Hunt.
So he is here today, and but I guess that's an odd way for me to start my speaking. So I got to know Sean Hunt when I was in about 2nd year. I'd already been involved with the Mathematics Council or the Math Law Council for quite a while. And when he came in, he right away showed that he better understood how organizations are supposed to operate from a governance standpoint than pretty much anyone else I've ever met. And I have now had the opportunity to work with government officials, people who have masters in policy, and he still, I think, would either rival, and lawyers, and he still rivals, I think, a lot of them on understanding of how legislation, bylaws, etc. work. Otherwise, for the whole time of his undergrad, he worked tirelessly to represent students as a Speaker of Council at Feds, as a VP within a student society, as well as on the Board of Governors of the university and as a student senator. Really, there's very few people that I've known other than Sean who've been able to contribute as much as him, and I'm really proud to be able to nominate him as honorary lifetime member.
All right, so it's moved by Vice President Hamade, seconded by Member Forstner. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of awarding Sean Hunt honorary lifetime membership to the Federation of Students? Thank you, and those opposed? Motion passes. Congratulations, Sean. We just can't get enough general meetings. Gotta show up. And I believe we're now at adjournment. So do I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Member Forstner, seconded by Member Nasir. All those in favor of adjourning? And those opposed? Thank you very much, everyone. We are adjourned. Just so you know, right now we're going to be having an informal town hall where you can ask the Feds exec any questions you want. We do have 4 topics in particular we'd like to talk about. And then after that, let's all go to Bomber Wednesday.
Woo!
Is it over? It's over. Yes. Didn't nope. Convene?
And even Lakeisha and all of them voted to
free cover if you. All right. Nice. Something dirty that's kind of. I'm still on. No. They probably could have played really dirty there and succeeded. I'll destroy them in the next 4 hours.
Good night.
We fucked up. Hey, what are you doing here? Take that powder ball. Yeah, no. So we like the board, so I'm just going to withdraw from the council. It was a relatively civil meeting. All right, if you'd like to stick around, we will be having a town hall. You can ask some really good questions to the exec about 4 issues. I encourage you guys to stick around and stay. Okay, we're going to get the town hall started in about 2 minutes. Oh, wait. Actually, we might get it started right now. Carly has returned. I believe Stefan has gone home. He was feeling a little under the weather, so... Oh, wait, no, he's at the back, so... Stefan. Stefan, let's go. All right, everyone, so we're going to get the town hall started. And first up, we're going to discuss the provincial budget and also some changes in the federal budget. That is really exciting for post-secondary students. A lot of good things came out of that, and so Stefan's going to speak to that. Mainly the provincial budget, though.
It's like waiting for questions. I don't have anything prepared, really.
Okay. Okay, is anyone interested in asking questions for the town hall? Anyone at all? Okay. You know what? We're just gonna have a little informal talk up front here if you'd like to join. Wish you all a good night. Thank you all for coming out. This was one of the best GMs I have ever seen in my undergrad. It was one of the most well attended, so thank you.
Oh man, is it supposed to be this filter? Okay. I got one photo of it.
That's okay. You're better with those.
I don't want to sit here and grill you guys. You feel unfair, but someone was wondering who was setting up that area out of curiosity? Who was setting up stuff for this stuff? I feel like I had a thought. Whatever you want to. Like this set up a figure it out. Love. And it's good to talk. I think I've been single digits. Chris, I think I've been single digits. Let's just start talking. I don't know. What's the name of your event, Charlie? Or at least unofficial.
AJ! Why?
AJ, where are you?
Yeah, so I guess I'll talk a little bit about the provincial budget. You may have seen it announced at the end of February. There was discussion about the idea of free tuition. A lot of it is reallocation of tax credits into upfront grants. The amount of grants available to students starting in 17-18 will be significantly increased. And in some cases, there will be grants in excess of tuition, especially for those whose family incomes is below $50,000. If there's any specific questions that you may have about the budget, I'd be happy to try and answer them or to get an answer to you at a later date. Thank you.
Oh, you can ask questions.
We don't need.
Regarding the budget, with in regards to students who are 4 years out of high school who are considered independent now, and don't make $50,000 a year, are they considered getting tuition for free?
I'll have to get back to you on that. I'm not 100% sure on that, sorry.
Anyone else? Any other Ontario budget related questions? Did you go over that it's not actually free tuition and that it's only average? Okay, thank you.
Am I next? Cool. I'm next. I'm Carly. I'm the VP Operations. I'm the VP Operations and Finance, and I was just going to talk a little bit on a project in my portfolio, the service kitchen. So we're hoping it's under construction right now above the bomb shelter, and it's going to be like a community kitchen where student groups can book space and prepare meals or do a cooking class, or if you're having like a bake sale and you want to make something that's not just baked goods, you can use the service kitchen for that. So we're really, really excited about the new space for students and student groups, and then as well we'll be using it to make some of our own food to sell in international news, and if the C&Ds want to get on board, things like that, so that we can save a little bit of money that way too by using it in the morning for Fed's commercial operations. Any exciting questions about this exciting new project? Well, yeah, so it got passed through last year's board, and then this year we've just been working on it and working with plant operations on like getting it started. So it's currently under construction, and then we're hoping to open it in the spring term and do like a soft launch and get it all set up and how it's going to work for clubs booking it and things like that, and then for like full rollout in September. All like different student groups for sure, but like if we still have to sort that out, but we're definitely like have in mind specifically like Dawns who want to do cooking classes or other groups like student groups, yeah, but we're in the process of figuring that out.
Other service kitchen?
Bomber Wednesday tonight, come. Was named service kitchen. It's not, that might not be its official name. We're thinking like community kitchen maybe, just like because it provides a service to students, not just for services. Yeah.
Carly's kitchen probably. All right, my turn. Okay, to the large audience here, welcome. My name is Maz. I'm the VP Internal. I just wanted to briefly chat about campus safety. One of the special projects that I've taken on to work on and improve. The first thing I want to make everybody aware of is that there is a form on the Fed's website. So if you have any concerns about safety issues on campus, you can fill it. You can provide that through the website. It's called safecampus.feds.ca, or sorry, it's feds.ca/Safe Campus. And if you go there, there's an information form where you can, if there's a particular area of campus where the lighting is not that great, or it's prone to, in the winter months, if it's prone to slippery conditions, or it's just creepy in general, or if there's any issues with safety on campus, you can fill out that form. And what I'm using that form is to collect data on where students are saying is unsafe, so that I can take that to the university and lobby on it and make improvements. One of the more tangible things I'm working on is improving lighting in the colleges area where Rev is and where St. Paul's is, that sort of area there. Students have complained that lighting is bad, so we are working on improving that. The other thing I'm working on is ambulance access to our campus. So Stephen here would probably know because he's involved in CRT. What happens when somebody calls 911 for a medical emergency and they say that they want an ambulance is that an ambulance is dispatched to campus and they need to be led into the particular building by campus police. And if campus police is, for some reason, and to my knowledge, this has never really happened. If they're busy dealing with another emergency, the ambulance is waiting at Ring Road, at Seagram, or at North Campus at the Higgy entrance. So to minimize that, we would like to work with the Region of Waterloo and regional paramedics to make sure they have maps of campus so that they can access campus more easily. There's a whole lot of other things that I'm working on, but what I would like to hear more about is what you think are your concerns regarding campus safety. To the few people in the room, if you have any concerns, or to anybody watching the live stream, you can email me at vpin@feds.ca, but if any people here have any questions, I can answer them now. So repeat the question for the live stream. Okay. So the question was, have you looked into the more into the helplines? Yes. So I sit on the safety committee with the university, and one of the things that they created in response to improving the whole the helpline situation was the WatchSafe app, which they feel is the helpline in people's pockets and their cell phones. It basically has the same function as the helpline does. So you open the app and press the button. It sends your location to campus police, and they're able to, in theory, come there. But I have heard a lot of feedback from students about still wanting to improve those helplines in addition to having this app. So that's certainly a conversation I'm willing to have with the university.
Regarding the helplines, how often are they used?
I honestly don't know because they're operated by university police. So, but I can find out more stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
How much do they cost to install?
I also don't know that, but I can find out. So the usage and the cost of it, definitely, if the conversation is going to happen about the need for increasing them, we will have to talk about the cost and the usage of it for sure.
My question was basically about efficiency. So if the money could be spent on more helpful safety protocols, then that would be.
Yep. Yeah. So I can. I will look into it, and what I'll do if I find out an answer, I'll tweet it through my Twitter account. For you or any student to find out, you should totally follow it. It's at UWFedsVPI.
Any other questions for Maz about campus safety? All right, I guess I can talk. So I wanted to talk in this time about the SLC PAC expansion. So as I hope everyone is aware, the referendum passed, so once the building is going forward, and there will be a fee once the building is complete of $18. So what was shown during the referendum was what we called conceptual drawings. So that's just to give an idea of, in this floor, we're going to have these sort of elements, and those elements could be, so in the example in the referendum, there were a bunch of bookable rooms of varying sizes. So similar to the ones in the SLC. And then there's also a multi-faith prayer space, and there's more expanded opportunities for people to sit down and eat their lunch. There's also a social space. So those sorts of things. These are conceptual. But we don't know yet are the details. So specifically, like down to the feet and inches, what are the dimensions of the room, and other details. So in the bookable rooms, for example, how many outlets do we need? Do we want whiteboards on the walls? Do we want projectors in the rooms, or do we want TV screens instead? Even things as like seemingly benign as, what is the power load on those outlets? Like, do we need circuit breakers for each individual outlet or for the whole room? So all of these little details to figure out, these need to be determined before we actually start construction. So that's what the month of May is going to be for. So in the month of May, we're going to be having consultation sessions with students. So we're going to have a session where all we're going to talk about is the multi-faith prayer space. And that's going to be in the evening, and we'll say, everyone who wants to come out here and explain all the details that you want to see in this space. And then we're going to have another one for the bookable rooms. And everyone's going to come out and they're going to explain, we want 50 million outlets in the rooms. So those sorts of things are what's going to happen in May, because we need to start determining all of these little details. After that, the architects are going to go away. They're going to work on the schematic designs, as it's called. And then we're anticipating that shovels will be in the ground for February. And we're still anticipating a fall 2018 opening date. So if anyone has any questions about the SLC PAC expansion, Sasha.
I have two questions. One comes from another student who wanted me to ask you, you said student consultations will be starting in May, so does that mean that there haven't been any yet? If so...
Sorry, I meant student consultations for the schematic design process. Okay. So we did student consultations, so I went out, I presented at council, I went out to a few of the society council meetings, asked them there for their feedback on the conceptual phase. So now that we're moving into design, we're actually looking at details, and those are the details I described. So that's the student consultation that's going to be starting for that.
Great. That's a good answer. My other question is, when it comes to making sure that the building is accessible for all students, what steps will be taken in order to make sure that it's accessible for any students with any reasonable range of disabilities?
So we are very much aware that right now there's certain buildings on this campus that are a little bit lacking in that regard. PAC certainly is one of them. So we're in the expansion, there are currently plans for 2 new elevators. So in addition to the other publicly accessible one in the SLC, that would be 3 elevators for the 2 buildings which are then connected. So we're hopeful that that will help. In particular, this is going to make the vast majority of PAC accessible, because right now it's very, most of it is accessible in the sense that you technically can access most of it. You just have to, go all the way around the building to access your accessible entrance. So we're hopeful that, in particular with the PAC, because we're now having a central access point, so a central entrance point to the building, we're able to focus our efforts to make sure that everyone who's coming in here, we need to make sure that this entrance is accessible, so we can do a lot in that regards.
Thanks.
Chris. Oh, do you have a question? You go first. No.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I don't know if this has already been talked about. After the PAC expands, is athletics also expanding to make sure we're having enough services and also meeting the needs of the students? Basically, like offering more programs, hiring more individuals?
That hasn't really been discussed yet, but I'd be interested to have more of that conversation. So if we can connect offline, I'd like to chat about that more.
I know there was discussion about limiting access to PAC to only students to prevent other individuals from entering. Will that, since we're talking about a one entrance to the SLC PAC, how will outsiders be allowed still in the SLC portion, or how will that be handled?
So in the SLC portion, it's still a public building, open 24/7, and anyone can come in and out of this building. It's just the athletic facilities that is going to be students only, members only.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Sorry. So like the entrance to the PAC part is going to be behind like a turnstile gate that you'd have to swipe your WAD card to enter. But that's all inside of the SLC building.
And will the PAC then be accessible to students currently on co-op as well, or is it only?
We're still working on that. Currently, I don't believe they are, and we're trying to address that right now.
Okay. If co-op students pay the $18 fee, wouldn't it be accessible?
That's a good point. Good way of looking
during
at that.
Their co-op?
Yeah. Like it's just so right now the way it works is that basically if you're currently in classes, you pay the athletics fee as part of your student services fee. So I think the athletics portions is about a little over $80. And for part-time students, you pay 30% of that. And people who are not registered in classes don't pay that fee and therefore aren't allowed access to the building. So contrast that with grad students who are here throughout. So they pay their fee 3 times a year to get access the entire time. So if we were to allow undergrads access in that third term, it would seem like they would have to, you'd have to make up that money somewhere else, because all of a sudden you're allowing students who technically shouldn't be allowed in because they haven't paid the fee that term, whereas, for example, the grads pay the fee three times a year for 3 terms, whereas an undergrad would pay it once or twice over the year.
That makes sense. I just had a quick clarification then. On my co-op term this past summer, I did buy a shoe tag, and I participated in fitness activities on campus, even off the shoe tag. So should I not have been allowed a shoe tag?
They've slowly been cracking down more on that. Technically, I don't think you were allowed, and you just sneaked in.
Because they swiped my card in order to give me a shoe tag.
That's very interesting. But I don't believe you were letter of the law allowed. Yeah.
I have a question for the 4 people who are here. Would you pay a little bit more each term to be able to use it while you're on a co-op or an off term?
Of course. If the value is there, right?
So what this means, like one proposal, like solution to this question about, this would apply to both co-op students and students who are just off that term, is for every term that you are on campus, and this is for all students, instead of $80, for example, you would pay like $82, $83. And this would apply to everyone. And with that, you would then get access to the athletic facilities from the moment you start classes in your 1A until you graduate. That's when you would get access. So that's like an ongoing discussion of whether or not that's fair.
That proposal seems to be easy to monitor than what happened with my shoe tag, for example.
Yes,
alert,
you
alert.
Would think. Yeah. 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 All right. Any other SLC PAC questions?
My question was, which of my favorite newspapers on campus is getting a brand new shiny great office in the new building?
I talked to Iron Warrior and they didn't seem very interested. No, Imprint, yes. Imprint has...
Oh, thank you.
Imprint has office spaces in the SLC PAC expansion, and we're still, I believe we're going to be meeting with them in a couple of weeks to sort out, again, the schematic details of what their space is going to look like. Carly?
I shouldn't have said anything. So what's happening is, like, Fed staff who were in the marketing space downstairs, and then also some of them from the main office are going to go into that space. We're going to, like, try and have most of our staff in those 2 spaces so that we're more central, and then only have a few staff over in the main office and open the rest of the space to students. So, like, we have grown in staff over the past few years, but then also being more efficient with the space and, like, the open layout of those 2 spaces will allow us to be able to take up less office space.
Was that your question? Or was
Yes.
She
said, what's going to happen with that?
Cool. All right.
And give students more space.
Any final questions before we finish this town hall? Thank you very much to all the people who helped put away chairs. I very much appreciate it. Thank you.
Bomber Wednesday.
Let's all go have a drink.